look at that. Let's make a noise. Let's make that not make noise. There. Well, we do be streaming. How do we sound? We do not have a special cool streaming microphone. All right. 2 viewers. Oh yeah, wait. No, one of those is me. Okay, fine. Fine. Hi, sweetheart. Let's wait and see if anybody shows up, shall we? 2 viewers. Where do I go to see where the viewers are? We're still not recording. All right. Seriously? Prime Gaming? Okay, fine. Broadcaster. Come on. Fine. Why? Let's do that. That's ridiculous. That's better. Cool. Well, now we wait and see if people show up. Nice. That's another viewer. That's a real viewer. Well, that's exciting. Welcome to the stream. I don't know if I get to see who the viewers are. Yeah, this is me having no idea what I'm doing. Welcome to the stream. Oh, really? Yeah. At all? No. Well, that's bad. It's telling me I have sound. Let me see. Sound check is working. Sound check. How's that? Hi. Stop listening. Do not mute stream. Check. So you're not getting any sound? Still? Okay, it's not me because YouTube has sound. God damn it. Sorry. All right, let me check the source. See what I can do here. All right. How about this one? How about now? You got any sound now? Check. Check. Yeah! That's much too loud. Yeah, that's gonna be bad. Audio device. What does that mean? Ah, okay. Headphones. Light source. How about that? Okay. Now we do that. Save. So it's telling me I have sound. You are telling me I don't have sound. Okay. All right. Well, let's see what we can do here. Okay. My viewers is pretty cool. Let's see what we got here. Oh, come on. Okay. There. Connect. Do that. Are you working or what? Fine. How are we doing? So still no sound? Got his headphones in. Come on. Fine. All right. That's not going to work. Oh, you do? Oh, it's him. You can hear me. This is why chat is so important. Okay, well then, the heck, let's get started. Here I am. All right. Welcome to the stream. Please do let me know in chat. So, be kind. It's my first stream. I have no idea what I'm doing. We're going to have some fun, though, doing some genealogy. So, welcome, Phoenix. Super good to see you. Yeah. So what I thought I would do today, oh wait, let me turn, my light is not on. See, look, this is all amateur hour. There's my light is on. What I thought I would do today is show a little bit for the first stream of how to, what we get when we use free online resources to do research. And the reason I thought this might be interesting is that I run everything on easy mode. I'm all about, like, I am able to afford to have full memberships on all the streaming services, and that enables me to do lots of lookups of lots of stuff. And when I started thinking about doing a genealogy stream, the first thing I realized recently was that a lot of the materials that are on those sites are under a terms of service of my membership, or are copyrighted. So I can't just. Thank you, Cranky. You can still be my mod. Um, so I don't want to end up doing a ton of work and putting a lot of our heart into it and then getting a DMCA takedown notice because I have put copyrighted materials on screen. And I said, well, that actually creates, it's annoying, but it creates an opportunity because I don't expect all of you to go out the first day and be shelling out some of the kind of membership dollars that these sites require. It would be much more useful to all of you if we talk about what can we do with the resources that a regular person has available. And then you're going to get plenty of naggy emails from all of those sites letting you know about all the great membership opportunities. You can decide for yourself what the memberships have to offer. So I'm going to start out in this first stream with trying to see what happens when we just do free stuff. And that's going to be entertaining because it's going to take away a lot of the tools that I use to be good at this game. So, thank you, Cranky. So let's go ahead and get started. But for those of you that are viewing, I haven't figured out yet if I'm able to see who's viewing. I'm super new at all of the streaming tools. I have no idea what I'm doing. But if you have questions about genealogy just while we're chatting, or if you want to give hints about where you want me to go or stuff you want me to look at, drop that stuff in the chat because that's the way I will know that you are here. And if this is super boring, you may have more exciting things to do with your Sunday, but like, let me know what you want. This whole thing is a big experiment right now just to see what do people want to watch, and I would love to have your feedback and guidance shape the stream if and as we grow the stream. So my goal is to have a community where we do fun stuff together. I'm just starting with my tree because I didn't know if anybody would show up. Yeah. In the future, I think we will be open to hitting a lot of other people's trees. I have ideas about if we get into like having channel points and followers and subscribers someday, then maybe we have rewards for the frequent viewers that we work on your trees. But there's probably a lot of work between right now and that point. So today we're just going to be casual. I'm going to start with a super exciting browser screen. We're going to go to ancestry.com. There are other sites, but you know, this is the big daddy. It's the one that can afford all of the advertising on stuff. And so we're going to start by creating a brand new account that will have none of the memberships that I have, and we're just going to do it. I think we're going to hate life with a new membership, but we're going to see what happens. Sign up today for free. Sure, it's free. Okay. Oh, hang on. Use it as. Are we going to put my email address on screen? Sure, why not? The problem is, okay, yep, use my other email address. Spam me if you want. I'm not recording this. Confirming the password. Here we go. Are we gonna have a? Oh, good, excellent. No, we want to do this for free. No, Ancestry, we want to do this for free. We want free. This is interesting. All right. I don't want it. I don't want to start by paying you. I want to start for free. Okay, fine. Let's get started. Does that mean I can't do anything for free? That's interesting. I do not like this. All right. Well, that's unfortunate. If it doesn't work, there we go. No. Gross. I'm not putting my credit card in there. This is interesting. So I can't do anything with it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are gonna temporarily not show things on screen. Now, can I mute that? Here's what we're going to do. See, this is where knowing what to do on... Yeah, you might have to go through it. Yeah, so free trial page. I don't want to show you my credit card. So let's figure out how we do that. How do I sign up and put in my credit card and not show it to you? Watch this. Ho ho! Look at that. Good enough. Can you still hear me though? Excellent. We are a pro streamer this morning. We are getting it done. Okay. Pro streaming content. This is quality content right here. Hey, it's Kevin. Hi, Kevin. So, Kevin is used to watching me clown on a computer. It's what I do for a living. PayPal. There we go. Password. Here we go. Totally not showing you all my login information. Oh, and I didn't dox you by calling you Kevin because it's right there in your username. See? Look at that. That is highly professional streamer content right here. Good. Okay, we have just finished. What we're hiding is we've just finished signing. Excellent. Now we'll go back to our main screen. Look at that. We sign out great. I just doxed myself. Sad. Not recording though. There we go. Here it is. We are here. Now, at some point, what do I need to do? Renews automatically. So I'm going to want to go in and make sure that you don't renew automatically. Let's just do that before we forget. But what this means is that we're in on a free trial. So we're not really in on a free membership, right? This is going to work for a month, and then we're going to find out what happens. Yes, exactly, Cranky. This is streamer life, apparently. I'm trying to be sensitive to that. Okay, so we're going to see what we get with a free membership with the US only plan. And then we're going to see what happens if we cancel. So, Phoenix, I think you said that you had an Ancestry subscription that you allowed to expire. So does that mean it cuts you off from everything? You can't do anything, even your trees? Are you kidding me right now? No. Honestly, not really. Not enough free stuff. Hey, thanks for the follow, Kevin. Welcome to the stream. So great. I got to say that. Okay. All right, fine. We did the survey. No, stop asking. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start a family tree. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then it would. Did anything pop up on the screen, or did it just make a happy noise? Made a happy noise. Okay. Yeah, okay, Phoenix. That's kind of what I was thinking was search is good, work on tree, and then I expect that we're going to see a bunch of annoying paywall stuff. You got a pop-up? I got my first pop-up. That's so exciting. Okay, cool. Very cool. Oh, okay. We're going to start today. One of the things I looked at when I was deciding about starting the stream is that Twitch's terms of service are very, very specific about not doxing people, which means we're not showing private information for living people. And that's going to be, we're going to tiptoe on the edges of that as we do genealogy, because let us say, for example, that we find an obituary for someone who's died within the last century. There's a really good likelihood that it's going to mention their children and grandchildren and so forth who are living people. So we're going to be careful with that. The good news is that a lot of those obituaries are behind paywalls that I'm not going to use today. But what I thought would help as our starting point, breakfast. What I thought would help for this as our starting point is that we'll simply start to build a tree. I'm not showing you my tree because not only, it's not just my information that's in there, it's my parents' information and my siblings' information. So I don't need to be showing a lot of that private data. We can all agree that in the course of this stream, y'all are going to find out what my mother's maiden name is. This is why, we don't use those for security very much anymore. That's a thing that's going to happen. But as a starting point, I figured we would go with something that will start by creating a new tree using, it happens that all 4 of my grandparents have passed away. So we will build trees until we find other stuff we want to do. I'm going to build out individual trees for each grandparent, using them as the home person so that everybody in that tree is someone who has already passed away and we're not violating the privacy of living relatives. So, if you're a member on Ancestry and you're looking at other people's trees, it automatically hides the personal information for living people for when you're viewing other people's trees. But since I'm the owner of the tree, I can see all the people in it. So I'm not going to put any living people in the tree that we stream. So let's get started. This is funny. I advertised this stream as Shady Character Sunday, and I have to apologize to my Hammond relatives for anyone who's going to be offended when I say that my grandfather, Harry Hammond, was a shady character. He's not really, honestly, he's not that shady. I was hoping he would be much shadier than he actually was. But he has this really interesting fun fact about him, which is that he did lie about his age all the time. There was a real good reason for that we're going to find out, which is that he was a lot older than my grandmother when the two of them got married. And so to make that, we think, a little bit less shocking, he lied and shaved some years off of his age. What I found out when I researched him the first time through, and we'll see this, is that that wasn't the first time he lied about his age. He had been doing that before. So as a result of that, his own kids, my dad and my aunts, didn't actually know how old he really was. So we're going to start by adding Grandpa Harry Hammond here. No, not me. Harry Harvard Hammond, who is male. And here's a problem. Don't have any idea what birth date when he was born. No idea. Because even if we thought we knew, and if I could remember off the top of my head, it was wrong. We know it was wrong. He was honest enough to tell us he'd lied about his age. He was just still lying about his age when he did that. And my grandfather was still living when I was a little kid. He died when I was fairly young, but I vaguely do remember him. So he died in the mid 1970s. This is, y'all know, I could go look all this up. I have all this. But I'm going to try to go with kind of what a regular person might know about their family. So I think he died when I was young, after my brother was born, which means mid to late 70s in the Seattle area. And we don't know exactly where he was born. When I started this journey, did not know where he had been born. We knew he had lived a couple different places. And we didn't really know how old he was, but we thought he was in his 80s. So that's going to put his date of birth before 1900. And so I'm going to do a wild guess that he was born, let's say, around 1895. And we don't know where. We'll go with that. Let's see what we can get just knowing that information. Bink. We have another. Oh, he's not. No, he's not living. Let's fix that. Oh, they think it's me. I see the problem. They think this person is me. Okay. In which case, I'm clearly not dead. Fine. I think we will be able to come back in and fix this later, but let's find out. Okay, so we've got him here. We're going to get limited information about Harry because it thinks he's living, and they actually do a halfway decent job of protecting people's privacy and so forth. Okay. Now we have another problem. I do know what we think his father's name was because my father was named after him. So we think that his father's name was Eugene Hammond. Absolutely no idea where he was born or when or where he died or when. We got nothing. So this is it. And I don't know what his mother's name was. No idea. So at this point, when I first started researching Harry Hammond's tree, this is what I knew. This was it. This is interesting because I don't have any idea. Okay, let's just make it happy and give it a Hammond, but I don't know who. Yes. Okay, good. So this little walkthrough, I'm a little disoriented here because I'm used to seeing a lot more fine-grained control over the tree from all the trees I work on. But we're doing this startup user tutorial, and as expected, I'm seeing a bunch of stuff that I have not seen before. Okay, this is interesting. So now this is the thing that is this double-edged sword about working with Ancestry, is that Ancestry is incredibly generous with these things that it calls hints. However, the hints are hit or miss in terms of whether they are any good. And I say this as someone who, when I built out my family tree on the Hammond side for the first 4 or 5 times, not even kidding. Um, I ended up building out a tree where the first time when I first started, I was really, really, really forgiving about just accepting lots and lots of hints that it provided. And after working on it for some number of weeks or months, I found tons of errors, so many errors. And it traced back to hints that I had accepted that came from sources that were simply wrong. They're just mistaken. And I'm a little bitter about it because I have had to delete the entire tree, which represented weeks and hours and hours and hours of work, and start over because there were so many errors in it that I just couldn't find and correct them all. Just couldn't do it. So I now have developed a habit that I will share with all of you of saying, I'm really, really picky about which hints I am willing to accept. And there are a lot of, we're going to find in Ancestry a lot of collections that I don't even care if it might be right. That source or that collection is so typically riddled with errors that I won't take anything from it. Um, this is a balancing act as you build your tree. You're going to find a lot of like, well, this information probably came from somewhere. Somebody must have known something, right? And there's a lot of information out there that can be bogus or was well intentioned at one time, but's been disproven and it just won't die because of the internet, any number of things. So let's get started seeing what does it think it knows about this person that it thinks is me, named Harry Harvard Hammond? What do we think we know? Let's review our hint. Boom! Look at this. Okay, so this is free trial zone. We're getting some lovely sources here that we may or may not be able to do anything with. And here's, wow, right? First one, okay, look. The Find a Grave record here, we'll talk about Find a Grave a little bit. I know this date is good because I'm the one who made that record. So, oh, look, we're going to get the results of some of the research I've already done. But I know this is the right person here in Find a Grave because it's the first, it's Harry Harvard Hammond. I don't think there's another one of those. But also because he's married to Edward Crossland Hammond, who is my grandmother. And the fact that my grandmother is named Edward is a story for the other stream that I'll do on her and her family at some point. But um, yeah, explains a lot about how I got the way I am, doesn't it? Anyway, so here's Harry, and so we have a little bit of a cheat here. This is the birth date that I have settled on after having done my research, and I put it out there this is actually a good introduction to one of our free sources. Okay, if I go here, and it is another double-edged free source, but this one is straight up free. So, okay, fun story. I first discovered the Find a Grave website. Sweetheart doesn't know this story. Cranky doesn't know this story, but he's going to like it. I first discovered the Find a Grave website existed. When was that? 2000. When did we go to Vienna? We went to Vienna on vacation was that 2009? Yeah, right? Okay. So, I'm so Gen X. Yeah, I'm so Gen X and it's so embarrassing. But um, I decided when Cranky and I went to Vienna on a week vacation, sometime in that time frame, and just because Vienna's awesome and Cranky's a musician and we wanted to go check some stuff out, and I got it in my head that I wanted to go visit the grave of the 80s Austrian pop singer Falco, who is buried in Vienna. And I don't even remember why I thought that was a good idea. I think the internet said that Falco's grave was actually kind of interesting and had stuff at it. Anyway, so somehow in the course of Googling, I discovered that the information about Falco's grave is on Find a Grave. Yes, thank you, Cranky. That is correct. And So we looked up Falco's grave on Find a Grave, and it gave us the information about what cemetery Falco was buried in and exactly where to find the grave marker, because they have fairly decent information about notable people who have died and where they are interred. So, for example, you can go get the pointer to where exactly is, I think it's Bruce Lee's grave marker that's here in Seattle, and people do, as tourists, come and visit that. So we went and paid our respect to Falco. And lots of other notable Austrians who were buried in that cemetery in Vienna. So, but nowadays, Find a Grave is a resource that all of this is crowdsourced, right? So this is yet another one of those free sources that is as good as the information people have put in it, which is sometimes great. If I built the profile, I feel pretty good about what I did. But if somebody else did, you might want to go check and find out how do they know the things that they said in it. And sometimes there's just barely any information at all, right? All right, and where is our cemetery? We happen to know it is in Bremerton, Washington. I've been there. All right. So, there. Oh, look. It's Harry. Harry Harvard Hammond is buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery in Bremerton, Washington. That's where he and my grandmother lived most of their lives together. Their kids were born there, raised their kids in Bremerton, and that's where his marker is. I took that picture. It's not a very great picture, but oh no, I didn't take that picture. No, my picture is much worse. This is much better. Good. Right, because I couldn't get into the little building where this thing is at. But they're there. Oh, I took that picture. There we go. I took the terrible picture. Somebody else took the good picture. Good for them. Okay, and you will right away notice, if you are sharp-eyed about this sort of thing, that the birth date that I put in here, October 1888, does not in fact match the birth date that is on the marker itself. Told you, we don't agree about this stuff. I will show you, as we start to see the records, I will show you why I think my date is more likely to be correct. But I will also say, don't actually know for sure. Don't know for sure. So, all right, so here's some information about Harry that we immediately find. This is plausible that you might start up a tree and not know some stuff and find out that somebody else in your not too distant family has entered what they know, right? Or this could be the product of you go and actually talk to. There were lots of times when my grandmother was still living that I went and talked to her, and she wrote down tons of information about her family and what little she knew about her husband's family. And I will say she knew what his parents' names were, and they are written down. My aunt and my dad know what those are. I just didn't remember them off the top of my head, right, when I was starting that tree. So, what's interesting is to show that you can get pretty far even not knowing. So we've got our Find a Grave in here that's going to give us some good information. And since I know that this information's good, it matches, let's say I've talked to my family and I know that this matches what we knew, I am going to look at this hint. Oh, look, here it is. I can actually click through to Find a Grave from here as well. It gives me this kind of detail. There's not a bio that's been written here, but for some people that you find on Find a Grave, there'll be an extended bio, sometimes lists sources or excerpts from books that are written about them. Can be, so if you get the little Y here that says has a bio, definitely click through. That'll help you figure out if you're looking at the right person. Does this match who you think it is? Right. One of the ways that people will sometimes go wrong is that they'll connect a person who has a similar name, and I for a future stream when we talk about Cranky's tree, we'll talk about what happens when you have somebody with a similar name and similar birth date in the same part of the country at the same time, and how that can go horribly wrong and almost ruined my Christmas one time. But for now, we're going to go ahead and connect this record. And oh look, I had guessed 1895, but we're going to go ahead and pull in 1888. We're going to edit all the fields here. I'm going to do a quick thing that I have learned to do on Ancestry, which is, oh, is it going to let me? Oh, it's not. Okay, fine. I'm going to standardize the date. See if I can get it. Is it going to? Yes. And it's going to standardize the place name. There are some benefits to doing the standardization. There we go. Okay, there we go. We got their date standardizer. It's telling me matches kind of what I remembered, right? He died in the mid to late 70s in the Seattle area. It happens that he's recorded as dying in Auburn, and he is buried in Bremerton. So, and that matches, even though they lived in Bremerton all that time, it does match the records that I have for him because he and my grandmother moved over to the Seattle side of the water after they retired, and they lived in both places. So now I have an opportunity to do something interesting here, which is I can add a record for Grandpa Harry's wife. And this is my grandmother. So I happen to know that her full name was Edward Crossland Smith. So let's do that. And then we can standardize her dates. This is just an autocomplete. So all I'm doing is I'm throwing my cursor in this box and I'm hitting the space bar because that's what triggers the little pop-up to come up. And then it's going to give me the date in a standardized format. That helps me later with other things that I might want to do with other tools where I might want to, for example, there are some tools I can use to look at everything that happened in a particular place in my tree, all the people that are associated with a particular location. And it's easier to match that stuff if I have all of those things standardized so the text matches. So, and Ancestry provides that feature, pretty helpful. So I'm adding that. So I do that by just like, that's just automatic for me. I just always go through and hit that space bar. So I'm going to save to the tree. Cool. So those of you who are on the stream, I think you've seen genealogy before. This is probably stuff you've seen before. So throw questions in the chat if you want to see something that you've not seen before. I'm intentionally starting with something kind of basic, but we don't have to stay there. You can ask questions about whatever you want. The point of doing it as a live stream is that I want more from you about what content you want to see. Otherwise, I would just edit a YouTube video and you'd get what you get. So this is interesting. So now it's giving me lots of information about what I just saved. I've not seen that before. That's pretty cool. I wonder why I don't see that on my normal tree. I have so many settings tweaked on my normal tree. This is really nice for me to see what regular users would see in a tree. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, so we now know we have in here, hang on a minute, continue to last step. Okay, this record has been saved as a source. So now what we have, I'm not going to dismiss this yet, but we have a record for birth, a record for death, a record for burial. We have a source listed, and Ancestry is going to let me click through there and see it in the future. And we've added a spouse. And Ancestry is confused about his spouse's gender, which is great for Ancestry. They're being very open about that. And we'll go in and edit that in a moment. Thank you, puppy. No, I know. We're not confused. No, we're not confused about it. So, cool. Okay, let's see what they want us to do in the continue to last step. And then we'll go through and do lots more stuff. Okay, step 3, search historical records. Correct. Yes. Yeah, this is true. So we can see both things are in play here. One is the history search button. And then the other one, whoop, hello dogs. The other one is, holy cow, a lot of hints just popped up. Oh, the dogs, they want to play. Dogs. Yes, Pasha's barking does put us in the red on the microphone, doesn't it? Thank you, Pasha. It is really nice to have a stream moderator who is in the house and can chase the dogs when needed. Thank you, Cranky. Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and... Yeah, it wants me to click on it. Let's click on it. Well, now that didn't do anything. Okay, fine. Okay. Oh, no, it did. It's just slow. Fine. Search. Yes. So, we get into the Ancestry search. It has automatically populated the search with a bunch of stuff. Lots of stuff that I already told it about Harry Harvard Hammond. And I can tweak this to make the search more targeted depending on what results I get. But let's just go ahead and take what it's giving us and see what we get. Tink. All right. And then what it's going to do that's really nice, I'm going to scroll down first. We'll talk about that stuff up above. Yes, thank you, dogs. It's going to tell me that I already have the record from Find a Grave, which is really nice because it's not going to show me a bunch more records from Find a Grave for other people named Hammond because it says there's one person in there and you've already got him. You're good. You're good here. This is helpful. If you are not sure or you think there might be more than one record or whatever, you can also turn this off. And that's going to cause there to potentially be more records coming up in search, but they might be less relevant. So I tend to like all the filtering. What I found over the years is that Ancestry is a free giver. It gives us lots and lots and lots of stuff, oftentimes that is completely useless. And so for me, filtering down the noise and seeing less, and then I can do another search later if I want to dig and get more. To me, that's the bias that I have. Here's the other thing that Ancestry does that is frequently less helpful, and I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to turn it off on purpose, is Ancestry is going to offer up, and they really highlight showing me stuff from other people's trees. Now, in this case, this tree right here, I'm real familiar with because it's my tree. It's the tree I created on my other account. It's the one I've been researching for all of these years. I know what's in it. But we're playing hard mode right now. I don't want to show us this whole tree. And here's the other problem. There are a lot of trees in the ecosystem of people who have made trees on Ancestry, especially for a dude like Harry Hammond, who really did not give good information about himself during his life, that have less good information or that have copied the heck out of each other. And so if there are any errors, they are reproduced all over the place, and it's absolutely crazy. As I'm looking through now, I will come back at times and look at other people's trees, but I learned, again, learned the hard way to really, really take other people's trees with a grain of salt. So I'm scrolling through here. I see stuff that I happen to know is right. So here's one that's not filled out particularly in too much detail. I suspect they've pulled information off of my tree. Because when I first started see, look, Edward Crosland, well, did she technically go by Edna? Kinda. Long story. We're not doing her tree today. Long, fun story, honestly. Why is Grandma's name Edward? Yeah, there we go. Okay. What if no results match Harry Harvard? Fine. But in this case, we have lots of stuff. So here's what I can do, though. Right now, we're down in the category of family trees, and I can go back up to look at all categories. And when I go change my search criteria, and let's see if it remembers this. I have a bad time with it not remembering my settings. I can tell it I do not want family trees to show up in my search. I just don't want to, I don't want to be bothered. I'm looking for records. I want records. And now we scroll down and we see, okay, now this is a thing where Ancestry can, what a good example of how Ancestry can be super cool about pictures and also can be super annoying about pictures, both in the same screen, right? So here we have a family photograph that I got from a cousin, and it's pretty cool. It actually does have Grandpa Harry. Is he in it? Is he in? Yes, that's him right there. How cool is that? And that is something that was scanned by a family member of mine. Um, D is a cousin through this guy, my grandfather's brother. And it's amazing to have access to a family photo that we, in the Hammond side, we, the descendants of Harry, we didn't have this. This was Harry's brother Irving had this. And his descendants got the picture, and we didn't get the picture. And so now we have not just a picture of Harry as a kid, oh my God, how cute is he? But we also have a picture of his sister, his brother, and his mother, and his sister-in-law, and his niece. How sweet is that? And we had never seen this before. We had no idea what Harry's mother looked like. So that's super cool. And Ancestry will allow us, I just go backwards here, it's going to allow us to save this to the tree if I want to. I'm going to pass on that for now and come back and talk about the other side of photos on Ancestry, because this drives me crazy. For a long time, Ancestry, within the last couple of years, they have added a feature for tagging of people on trees. But before, what's UGC? Before they had the ability to tag a profile, kind of the only way that you could group people together, yes, the photos are user generated. And so all those photos are things that people have uploaded. For in whatever way. And so one of the things that you have to be careful of is just because somebody uploaded it and they say who these people are in the photos, if it's recent and it's people that they personally knew, that's probably reliable. But as you get back into further back photos, I have seen tons and tons of portraits for people. Okay, I have seen photographs attached to people who lived and died in the 1700s. And that's not a picture of that person. It's oftentimes you will get a picture if it was a descendant of theirs who had the same name. It ends up going back 3 or 4 generations and getting attached to somebody much older who was not alive when there was photography. So that's a problem. And when you get into notable and famous people, you will also sometimes get people with the same name who have the, the capture of the painted portrait, right? A painting of them will get attached, but it's not always attached to the right person. So yeah, and then as soon as that stuff gets into the ecosystem, it starts getting reproduced, and that's frustrating. So you do have to be careful with that. With people in living memory, I feel really good about it. There are folks on Ancestry that are very generous about, like, they want the world to see their ancestor, like their grandma, right, or their grandpa, and they get real excited about sharing all that stuff, and it's awesome. So I have found really, really neat family portraits, and then there's some cool stuff that you can do on Ancestry where you can crop it down to just their face and have that show up in your tree. We can do that in another stream maybe. But while we're sitting on this screen, I want to also talk about this thing, back to that question of tagging. The only way that it used to be that the only ways you had to group people together, if you wanted to say, I want to see everybody who's a DNA match, or I want to see everybody who was in this part of the country at this time, or any other kind of quality about them. The only thing you had to do was that you could add a photo to you could add a picture, and then you could attach all of the related people to that picture. And when you go to view that picture in your tree, you get a list of everybody who's in it. I'll show you what that looks like, actually, because we were just on that screen, right? So if we go look at this picture that was uploaded by my cousin, it's linked to each of these people who appear in, and then you can see, okay, this is everybody who's in there. It's not actually everybody because Mabel is missing, but Mabel is here. Oh, and Ella is missing, but it's some of the people. So you can get a list, and then you can do that in your own tree. And because of that, it's a way of getting lists of people who share common characteristics. The other things that can be annoying as you get further back into history is you get people that are real promiscuous with things like coats of arms. And those make me sad because people get so excited about coats of arms and they're almost all made up. They're mostly not real. But you'll get these beautiful trees with coats of arms showing up in them for all the people with these different family names, even though they're not real and were not used by those people. And this is where I say, if you go check out my WikiTree profile, which is linked from my Twitch profile, you will see a little paragraph in my WikiTree profile that one of my favorite things to do as a researcher is to crush people's dreams and make them really sad about all the things that they thought were true about their families that just aren't. And it's sad. I'm going to try not to be mean about that here, but I have a bias of I like for there to be sources. So let's focus on sources. Here's something useful. We knew this death date because it was on Find a Grave, and it was on Find a Grave because I put it there. But the reason I knew what it was is because I found it in the Washington Death Index. And so now we have a real source. Really, dogs? Really, dogs? We're doing that? Yeah, I know. I love you too. That's the difference between a live stream and beautifully curated YouTube content. You get some dogs. Yep. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Cranky. Dog's gonna dog. Anyway, here we have a historical record. This is actually something that was pulled from records somewhere in the state of Washington, the Washington State Archives. Ancestry is really good at slurping up a lot of content from states and localities. As we get further back, some of the stuff that they have that's records is just amazing. They're really good at slurping up content that should be freely available to you from some other source and putting it in this convenient location behind their paywall. There's a very cool Twitter account called Reclaim the Records that actually spends a lot of time going after Ancestry for any time that it has attempted to place a copyright on things that should be public, because they're monetizing it. So I do have the mixed feelings about that. But here, because we're in free trial land, we can go ahead and grab this resource and add it to our profile. So we'll save this record to Harry, and it's going to do a similar thing to what we saw last time, which was, here's his death record, his birth date about 1888. That's interesting. It actually has maybe his true age on his death record. We can be certain that the death date is probably correct. Right now we can start to think about, like, what do we know about this source and what do we want to keep and what's likely to be correct and what's likely to have problems. Something to know about death records is that the person that the death record is about did not tell the data collectors this information because they were deceased. They were not around to give that information. So a super important thing to know about death records is that the quality of information in the death record depends very greatly on who the informant was and what they knew, and whether they were right about what they knew. That becomes more relevant when we look at a detailed death certificate. In this case, we're just looking at an index, but this information would have been pulled from a death certificate. So we're looking at the Washington State Death Index, and what it's telling us is the birth is about 1888. What that tells me is they recorded the precise date of death, and they asked what his age was. They did not probably record the exact date of birth. The death certificate may have it. The index did not have it. It's just recording date of death, age. And so we're getting an estimated birth date. Remember that my grandfather lied about his age all the time. So we don't know yet whether this is the right date of death. We just know the right date of birth. We know that it's the age that the informant thought he was. We don't know if it's true. So we'll take that with a grain of salt, but it does match what we had. And then we have this additional piece of information that says at the time of his death, his residence was in Kitsap, Washington. Normally when you see something formatted like this on Ancestry, and there's not, Ancestry normally does the location the way it is down below. City name, county name, state, country, for the US, right? And they do various levels of granularity for other countries. We may get to those as we research further back. But in this case, since we only have 3 pieces, most of the time that means it's county name, state name, country. Most of the time. Once in a while, you will see something that is city name, state name, country. And if the city and the county are the same, anyway, it can be confusing. But if I go do remember, I hit the space bar to get the thing to pop up, and it's going to offer me Kitsap County, Washington. I live here. I happen to know that Kitsap is not. I don't think Kitsap is a city also. I think it's just the county. So he normally lived in Kitsap County. I happen to know that he lived in Silverdale, that his permanent residence was in Silverdale, which is in Kitsap County. But we'll wait on that. And then this is where I'm actually kind of undecided what I do with these residence at time of death things. Because I'm adding residence as a new fact to his profile. And I don't exactly know. I guess I know that he lived there in 1976 because that is at his time of death. He was physically in Auburn, I assume at a care facility of some kind, when he passed away, or a hospital. But his residence was in Kitsap County. That can be useful when it's not uncommon for somebody to pass away. You know, you get back about 100 years and people tended to pass away at home. But nowadays, within the last 50 years, it's very likely that they died at a hospital or a care center that may be in a different city from the one they lived in, especially if they lived somewhere small. Right? So there's not a giant hospital in Silverdale, Washington. He came over to Seattle. So that as you're looking for people that you don't know information about, that you really don't know, you might not have known that he lived in Kitsap County. So if you saw that he died in King County and you're looking for records in King County and you don't know to go look for the entire 50 years prior of his life was documented in Kitsap County, this is helpful to know. So let's go ahead and put it in there because that'll start to get us potentially better hints and just a reminder to go look for that information. All right, so we've saved it, and you will see here, let's ignore this for a second. We've got a new fact, residence 1976 Kitsap County, and we now have 2 sources attached to the birth date 1888, because both Find a Grave said 1888, Oh, and look, if I click here, wait, if I click here, I can see which two sources are telling me that birth date. So that's useful. That's going to become important for Harry here because we're going to start to have sources that conflict and have different dates. And I would like to keep track of which source said what. And then we have Ancestry is going to throw this into chronological order for us. We know that he was living in Kitsap County, Washington in 1976. Thanks, Kevin. It's good to have you. And we know that he died in Auburn in 1976 and that he's buried in Bremerton, which, oh, look, Kitsap County. So that all tells a story that makes some sense, right? Thanks for stopping by, Kevin. Alrighty. So let's see what else we got. Now, it says it really wants us to search historical records, which we just did. But let's close that out and take a look at this massive, massive quantity of hints that has shown up. A lot of hints. Great question. Do we download the sources or do we leave them on Ancestry? Because I have the membership, I leave them here. But downloading the source information, downloading the original document, we haven't seen that yet, but let's go look at that. We can download those and keep them offline if, for example, we're going to run out of our free trial, right? That is definitely a thing we can do. So this is now we start to get into some interesting stuff about Ancestry Hints. Let me scroll down and address your question first, and we'll come back up and we'll talk more about pictures and stuff. Here's a great one. This one right here is a terrific source that would be an example of something we might want to download. Maybe. All right. We've got the 1900 U.S. Census, which, here's the thing. U.S. Census is a public record. It's made available by the government, right? I think Library of Congress or whoever, right? They make that thing available. There are actually quite a number of places online that you can go to find a census record. They're not all tightly integrated with somebody's family tree, and they're not all searchable in the same way. Ancestry invested, I assume, money and volunteer time. They invested something in getting people to go in and do what's called indexing of these records. So the original of the census, let's take a look. We can actually go view the source for this. In 1900, of course, the census was taken on paper, and it was written down, and those papers reside at the Library of Congress. Yeah, and you can, when we go to look at this census, and it's so cool to think that this was in a big book that was carried by a census taker who was walking from house to house, and they wrote down this information while they were talking to someone, right? Knocked on the door and talked to a member of my grandfather's family and wrote all this wonderful stuff down. And so I do love, like, there's a little bit of a time machine element in looking at this thing that's handwritten. Well, somebody's gone through, and there are some sites do these as volunteer projects. Family Search has a big volunteer project to index records. Others, Ancestry has presumably hired transcriptionists. Some of them use technical solutions like optical character recognition to try to strip down and get this into a data form that is searchable. And so Ancestry adds on top of this. You'll notice too, we've got this cute thing that they have now that you can hover over things and have it say how it was transcribed, what the transcriber thought it said and what it means. And that the family that I clicked in is highlighted. So back when I first started, I had to scan the whole page to figure out where my person was. I was at least on the right page. And now it's even easier than that. It's going to tell me who, like, right where they are. So here we are. And that tells us a lot of interesting things. What I can do, because it's a hint, I have to accept the hint first, and then we can come back and I'll show you what we can do. So let's do that. Here's the thing. We got to go back and look before we accept this hint. Let's go look at the hint information again. 1900 census. We got a Harry Hammond here. And we have, so this is what we're initially, if we just click on the hint, this is what we know. Is we have Harry Hammond. Census didn't record his middle name, so we just know his first and last name. We have the census recorded his age, and it happens that in the 1900 census specifically, it also asked respondents to give the year and the month that they were born. So not all of the census years have it at this level of granularity. We now know some interesting things here. He was living in Buffalo, New York, but his birthplace was Iowa. And we will recall that when I first started this exercise, I didn't know where he was born, and I certainly didn't know. I vaguely recall from hearing the family that maybe he lived back east or New York somewhere, but I don't know those details. So this is matching up to things that I don't actually know for sure that he was born in Iowa at this point in my research. Here's the other thing that's troubling is we've got his father's name listed as A.L. or Al Hammond, or that's how it was transcribed. And I had his father's name being Eugene. So I don't know about this. I don't know that his father was born in Pennsylvania. I don't remember what his mother's name was. So I'm matching this stuff up and I'm like, is this the right guy? Because is it possible there could be another Harry Hammond? Yes, that's possible. So, okay. Do I know that this matches my guy? I'm not sure I do. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to click maybe, that's complicated. I'm actually just going to back out and leave it here. So it's in the list. I don't have quite enough to go on. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ancestry. Okay. Let's keep scrolling and let's see if I can find one that I feel more confident about. Social Security Death Index, great. We already know this. Oh, look, Social Security ooh, this is interesting. Social Security thinks he was born in 1893. Let's do that. Let's look at that. Now, this is clearly the same guy, right? We've got January 1976. We know this, right? And we know that he lived in Silverdale. And this one is thinking, speaking of doxing people, we've got his Social Security number here. And this one thinks his birth date is 1893. That means that he told the Social Security Administration that he was born in 1893. That was easier for people to do back when, like my birth was recorded somewhere and I could lie about it, but you'd be able to look it up and find it. This guy, I still haven't found the record of his actual birth, so he could say whatever he wanted and you couldn't disprove it. Okay, so I'm going to say yes, this matches the guy in my tree. However, check this out. I don't want this source to say this is 1893, this is different. And I don't want to replace, so I'm going to say, okay, this is different. I don't actually want to overwrite the original date. The fact is that the different sources actually did say different things. So I am going to select here alternate as his date of birth. And we will see that what that's going to do is it's going to plug it in as a separate fact. Now, down here, this is interesting. With Social Security records for older folks, it's going to give you the information about where they lived at the time they applied to get a Social Security number. And so in this case, they don't know exactly when, but they know it was before 1951. He applied for his Social Security number while he was living in Washington State. However, before 1951 is really, really broad, and I don't find it all that helpful. So I don't actually want to add this as a fact to my tree. I'm just going to uncheck it and do nothing with that particular thing. And then this is going to add itself as a new source, an extra source to his death date. And since those things are, yeah, technically they're different, but they're close enough, I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you are certain the second date is incorrect. That is a good question. Would I still add the second date if I know it's wrong? For the purposes of this, I'm going to do it because I want to see what all the sources say, and Ancestry is going to let me see those and how they relate to each source. So I am actually going to put these alternate dates in because a source says it, even though that source is wrong. And I'll show you what we can do to kind of manage that fact once we've added this. So we're going to add this. We're going to add an alternate date, and we're going to save it to the tree, and we'll see what that looks like. So we go back to facts, and let's see what we added. Could you not? Thank you. Okay. We'll go back to facts. Here's facts. So now what we have is, this is our preferred birth date. This is our alternate birth date. And I don't remember, I don't actually know under the hood how Ancestry uses those two dates to do searches and look for hints. If we go in and do a record search right now, it is going to pull, let's find out. Come on, Ancestry, you can do it. in the search filters, it's going to pull 1888. It's going to pull his preferred date of birth as the one that we're searching with. If I want it to use the other one, I can edit it manually, or I can switch from alternate to preferred. So that's what this is going to do. There's also some stuff you can do with things like you can add an alternate name. It's not the case for this guy, but when we get into other parts of my tree, there are people in my tree who did full-on name changes in the course of their lives. And you can add the whole alternate name and then the whole the whole original name and the whole alternate name. I really wanted it to do a combined search on all the names, and it doesn't. So what I can do now, I haven't figured out how to make this box go away. I want that box to go away. I did what you asked me to. Okay. But what I can do now, if I just click on this screen, it's going to tell me which sources is this birth date coming from. And then I click on this one, and it'll say which source is this birth date coming from. And so that I find useful because I end up with kind of a map of who says what. And what I'm going to be doing is kind of looking to see what do more of the, we'll see, what do more of the sources say, and how do I know which one is really the right one? At this point, we haven't really seen which one of them is right. We just know that he told that his death certificate had 1888. His grave marker actually has 1887. So if I wanted to be more precise, right, like the Find a Grave record itself, oh, it's still here, I still have it. The Find a Grave record itself doesn't agree. It has 1887 in the picture, 1888 in the birthday. So I could even, yeah, let's do that. Why not? Let's add another birth. Let's add a birth date. Birth date. I'm just going to put 1887. It's looking like October 3rd. We've got some agreement on. I don't know where. This is not the preferred one. And then when I add this one, I can actually go in and change the source citation. And I can say 1887 comes from Find a Grave. There it is. And this is automatically saved. You kind of saw the magic happen in the background. So now look what we have. We have 1887. And I can put a note here that says, this is the date on his grave marker. Save. Right, and you can see the checkbox there. If I wanted to make that one the preferred date, let me just do that and save it. Magic happens in the background, and now this one is the one at the top. Right, this is the date on his grave marker. I happen to like this one better, so I'm going to remake that one the preferred date. But if I were being honest about this point in the research, I don't actually know that, right? That's not what I know. So I don't know enough to have a favorite, but I have a favorite. So, and then you'll notice too, now we have Find a Grave listed as the source for both of these because it does say both. The main record says 1888. The picture of the grave marker says, oh, here, let me be in the picture. In the photo of his grave marker. There we go. That's even more precise. So I can add that note. There's a limit to how many characters you can put in that description, but I do use those fact descriptions a lot to remind myself, how do I know this thing and what does it mean? And a lot of times you have those descriptions that you want to use. Let's go back and see what we have we're still trying to get to like an earlier or more interesting record that we wanted to look at. And we said 1900, we don't feel super confident about. I will tell you that the name Mabel I recognize, and I vaguely recalled from the family that maybe he had a sister named Mabel. So this record is looking pretty good, but let's see if we can find something else that is even better. Whoa, okay. See, look. New York State Census. Let's go take a look at that, because this is interesting. Remember that on the 1900 census, we only had his first name, last name. We only had Harry and Hammond. We didn't have Harry Harvard Hammond, which felt important. But here we have Harry H. Hammond, and we like that, right? So that gets me a little closer to, hey, this might be the guy. And then we have some super interesting things going on here. It's also in Buffalo. And his age is 17 in 1905, which places his birth around 1888. Hey, that kind of matches. But remember, the reason that I didn't like, or that the reason I felt funny about the 1900 census was that I understood his father's name to be Eugene, and that isn't what that census said. So I didn't have his full name. I don't know if his age is right or not. I didn't know whether he lived in Buffalo or not. I just kind of knew back east. And I didn't have a match on his father's name. But I thought, didn't I hear from somebody that his sister's name was Mabel? And so now I've got his father's name is Eugene. This seems very promising. Same guy, we've got the middle initial, it's the same age, we're in Buffalo, but this is Eugene, and this feels more likely to be a match for my guy. And we've got these four in the household. Oh, look, we've got extraneous people in the household. Why would that be? Let's go see why we have extra people. So let's click through and look at what New York says. This one doesn't have the cool color coding. So we've got the page. We're going to have to scan the page to find my people. I should offer rewards if you find them before me. Where are there they are. They're up here. Let's scroll in on that. So we have, hopefully you can see some handwriting going on here. We have Eugene Hammond, head of household, here. What on earth does that say? I don't know what that says. Okay, we have, they've transcribed it as Ella H. Hammond, wife. Dressmaker is her career, which is pretty nice. Mabel, daughter. Stenographer. And Harry H. It's worth clicking through to see if we agree on the handwriting as well. Do I think that that says Harry and do I think that's an H? Yeah, I think it does. And he is at school. Makes sense. And then my question was, why are there extra people in the household? And we have our answer here. It is, they are lodgers. Okay, they're renters. They're not related. I don't need to worry about them. They're not necessarily related. I don't need to assume that this is a bunch of extended family with random last names, right? I can set those aside for now. They are lodgers. Okay, fine. And because the guy is Eugene, I feel okay about saying that this is probably my Harry. Let's do it. Let's add it. This is where we start to get into trouble because if I'm wrong, it gets kind of messy to start tearing some of these facts out. So this is why I'm picky. Why don't they transcribe index everything in the entry? That's a good question. Let's go see what they do index. All right, we're going to scroll back in here. This is a tool we can use to compare. Here's what's on the screen. I'm waving at it with my mouse. Down below, there's a little button down below on Ancestry that is the index that is going to show us what's on the index. So I'm going to click that. And it's going to tell us what we have. This is Harry because that's the record that we have selected. And let's scroll up and take a look. Here we go. So we've got Eugene, head of household, white. So Eugene, head of household, white, male, age 50. What is that column? Let's go look. Nativity. If born in the country, write United States. If of foreign birth, write the name of the country. Okay, fine. Eugene and all the kids are U.S. Birthplace. Yes, United. Oh, okay. Down here in the index, the birth year is not actually on this document. It is calculated. All right, so it is the year it was taken minus their age. That also means you're going to get give or take a year because it depends on exactly what they'll ask you. Age at last birthday is what they often would have asked on the census. And so it's going to be give or take depending on what day the census was taken during the year and when their birthday is. So this will be an approximation. So they've calculated the birth year. That's in the index, which is helpful. Birthplace, that's from the document, U.S. All of them are U.S. Where are they living? This is going to be taken from usually the top of the document here, right? This is where's this page? 3rd Ward, City of Buffalo, 2nd Election District Block F, which is kind of neat. County of Erie, State of New York. Here's the date. It says as of June 1. So it is possible, whose usual place of abode on June 1. Every person living on June 1. Omit children born after June 1. Interesting. right? So if you have a relative in New York who was born in 1905, it matters whether they were in the first half of the year or the second half of the year. So they should expose that in the view you had before clicking through. Well, let's go back and look because I think they have some. Um, oh, relationship to head, right? Head, wife, daughter, lodger. Let's go look. So yes, you are saying back here in this view. Nope, not this view. The one before it. Yes, that is correct. Back. Nope. More back buttons. Let's go back here. This guy. Yes. Okay. So in this one, right. What you're wanting, and you're not wrong, is you would like the relationship. We've got relationship to head is up here for the person we're looking at. But what would be nice is if it was for each person in this list, we could see that relationship. What happens if I click through and look at Eugene's record? Is it any different? No. But if I clicked on this person, then it does say lodger. Right? I just have to click on the person. It's not in the list. And I will say that for the federal census, this display is oftentimes richer and has more stuff in it. We saw that when we looked at the 1900 census, which I can actually show us again. Here, let's look at that in a new tab, and we'll just compare. Right? In the 1900 census, they've transcribed and indexed every column, tons of stuff. And, oh, look, the whole household with the relationship. Right. So they give it to you for free. Some sources are better indexed than others because it has to do with what they have figured out for transcription and what the source has in it. And honestly, they're going to put more effort into the federal census because more people use it. So here we are. We'll close that for now. We're back at our 1905 census and we're figuring out, is this Harry Harvard Hammond? And we think it is. We think good enough. We're going to take the leap of faith and attach it to the tree. If we are wrong, we are making a big mess that is hard to clean up later. So I have other knowledge that tells me I know this is the right guy. But we are being pretty judicious about when do we say it's okay to attach. Okay, now we're going to do, remember that I said we have this auto-correcting, like it auto-formats the date. It's one of my less favorite things about some of the census records is, yeah, the ward information is useful, but it means that Buffalo Erie is not going to match Buffalo Ward 3 Erie, and I want it to match. So I'm going to take out Ward 3, put it here. I really wish, oh wait, and I can actually put it down here if I want. So Ward 03. I have found over the years that I don't care that much about Ward, so I oftentimes just take it out and don't add it into the description, but you can add it into the description or whatever else you want. Notice too, they only put Ward 3. They didn't put voting precinct 2, section F or whatever. Don't care. I actually would care more about their address, which you can get and is not. Sometimes it's indexed and sometimes it's not. Now, we have an opportunity here to decide, do we want to add Harry's family? Because we could add Father Eugene, we could add this information, we could add Mother Ella, and we could add Sister Mabel. And that's going to, here's how I think about this. Each of these people that we add and the information that we add for them is going to add more ancestry hints that are going to pop up and just more stuff. Hints can be really good. I think probably having, yes, Harry had a sister Mabel in the tree is going to be useful to remember because I want to connect him to other records that Mabel might also be in. So I think that's worthwhile. And then, of course, the whole point of this is I'm trying to go backwards and find family. So, of course, I want to try to add these parents. This assumes that these are the right parents. If they're not, I'm going to have to go clean up a mess. But let's go with it for now. And you will notice that Ancestry is smart enough that it doesn't offer me the lodgers to be added in as part of the family because they're not necessarily part of the family. Okay, now here's something interesting. We got Eugene Hammond, we knew that. In the census, we're going by the name that his mother had in 1905. And by the time she got to 1905, she was, of course, Ella Hammond. But we know that that's going to be her married name. Once in a while, somebody married somebody with the same last name, but for the most part, we know that we don't know what her maiden name was. And Hammond is not likely to be it. So this is where I make some decisions in Ancestry about how do I want to track married women whose married name I know, but I don't know their maiden name. And there is a particular thing that I have chosen to do that is I want a visual reminder that I don't know yet what her maiden name was. So what could I do? I could take this out. I could have it be blank. Ancestry is going to let me do that. I'm going to say let's do that for now because that is the simplest. We're just going to take it out. We don't know what her maiden name was. Let's see what happens. If we like it, we like it. We'll keep it. If we don't, we don't. And then we're going to add Mabel. Mabel is the sister. That is likely to be, I mean, we don't have a maiden name problem for her. We know what her maiden name was. We're looking good on Mabel. We've got everybody in here. I always have to check and make sure I remembered to take Ward 3 out of everybody. And right now we know birthplace United States, not groundbreaking, but sure, useful. We're going to go ahead and save all of these people to the tree. It's a small enough family. It's a big, again, big leap of faith, but there it is. We have done it. So now, I wish I knew how to make this go away. Forever. I've used your button. Thank you. Okay. Now we have, if I do this drop down, we've got Eugene Hammond. We've got Ella H. something. We've got Mabel Hammond in there as a sibling. Pretty cool. We're starting to fill out his family. And we've got some facts. All right, so now we come in here and we've got residence, 1905, lived in Buffalo. That is interesting, right? So now we have, really, Doug, given the fact that we have him living in Buffalo with Eugene and Ella and Mabel, we can go back and revisit this 1900 census that we were not feeling so good about and feel more confident about what we're looking at. And then, so let's go review that again. We've got the birth date matches, the age matches, Buffalo, not only Buffalo, but Ward 3, right? We're in here. We're good. Looking good. And then we've got this, why is it A.L. Hammond? We don't know. Let's go take a look at that. We've got Ella Hammond, and we've got a little bit more information, right? The New York census only knew that they were born in the United States because that's all it asked. This census says that his father was born in Pennsylvania and his mother was born in Wisconsin. Interesting. He was 5 years younger and he was at school at that time, which makes sense. Can read and write. Good job. Go, Grandpa. Why does it say can speak English? No. What does that even mean? Okay, so then we're going to take a look at that. But this household looks pretty much the same as the household that we saw in the New York census that we felt more confident about. So let's go ahead and say, well, let's look at one thing. I want to look at why is it A.L. instead of Eugene? And this is giving us the helpful color coding. And oh, look, we have found the reason. The reason is sometimes handwriting. Handwriting is awful. Handwriting is bad. So we've got enough here. This is a mess. This is a complete disaster. Thankfully, they reproduced the surname down here so that we can confirm that what they meant to do up there, that they must have done some scratching out and it's ink and they didn't have whiteout 1900 and right. So we've got a mess here. Oftentimes there's all these little annotations that are marked in here. Like, look at all this extra stuff that got written. I have not studied the census enough to know what that stuff means, but it can be really frustrating when they have written over the top of your ancestor's name. That can be really frustrating. But we've got some kind of goodness knows mess here for the head of household. And then we have Ella, Mabel, and Harry. That's our people. We like our people, right? So here we are. We've got March 1855, September 1856. Super cool. They can't quite decide what her age was because they've corrected it here. Years married. 1900 census is so cool. It's such a wealth of extra information. It makes me sad that we don't ask all these questions anymore. I love these questions. How many years have these people been married? 26 years. we're going to be able to calculate their marriage year from this. That is super exciting, right? Because that's going to start to be a pointer back to potentially a marriage record. I might have an idea of at least when to look, if not where to look. I am the hugest fan of this question for Ella Hammond of, oh, this is interesting. Number of children born. This is the only census they asked this, and it's such a neat question. How many children born total, and how many children living? Although, and I had only just noticed this, in this case, based on the other research that I have done, I know that this is wrong. Astute viewers may recall that earlier in the stream, we saw a family photograph with Ella that showed 3 children. 3. And that's not all the children that she gave birth to. So we know that this is actually incorrect based on other research that we're going to show. But number of children living, that I think is accurate. I think that's right. I don't remember when the other son passed away, but I think that's right. So we get here an example of information on the census that is incorrect because who knows, right? We don't know which member of this household talked to the census taker. In some cases, when you're dealing with someone that's a second or third marriage and it's the later spouse who's answering, they may not know this information. In this case, I happen to know that all 5 children were while she was married to Eugene, so he would have known. But sometimes you will get that either I'm guessing at these kinds of things, but the member of the household misunderstood the question, or you especially get that in households where English was not the first language, and the person giving the answers was not a native speaker of English. In this case, he was, so he didn't have that. They don't have that as an excuse, but who knows? Or the census taker didn't ask the question the correct way, or the census taker didn't understand it, right? Maybe the census taker's standing there going, why do they have 2 separate columns? It's the same answer for both of them, right? We don't know. But we happen to know this is a red herring. It is wrong. 2 children living is probably correct. And then we have their birthplace, not only their birthplace, but this is going to prove to be super useful very soon. Father's birthplace, his father's birthplace, his mother's birthplace. Whoa, we're going to like that when we start seeing records that might be for this person's family. We'll be able to match them up now based on this information. Again, assuming it's accurate. We'll have to make sure that we think it's accurate. Notice here for these 2 children, Mabel and Harry, that they are both shown as being born in Iowa. Their father was born in Pennsylvania, which tells us that it matches what we know for Eugene. Their mother was born in Wisconsin, which matches what we have right here for Ella. And then we have Ella's parents, New York and Michigan. Super useful. Keep scrolling over, more stuff. Most of this was transcribed in the index. Aha! Eugene Hammond is listed as a merchant. That's his occupation. Ella doesn't have an occupation. We saw in 1905 that she was listed as a dressmaker. And then Mabel and Harry are listed at school. So Mabel is younger, and this is 5 years earlier, right? 5 years later, we see Mabel has graduated probably and gotten a job, and she was listed then as a stenographer. Can read, can write, can speak English. That's not a no. That's clearly a yes. That's clearly a yes. What is wrong with people? This is a yes. This is a yes. It's the same yes as the yeses up above it. So this is just indexed incorrectly, and my grandfather has been slandered. Of course he can speak English. Not that there's anything wrong with not speaking English. I'm just saying, he spoke English. It's wrong. Let's go fix it. We can go fix it. I'm in the index. I'm going to scroll over. Let's see if we can fix it. Can speak English. This is a clickable link. Yes. Check it out. This gives us the indexed forms, and I can actually fix this and save it. Boom! It now shows that he has been corrected. So now we are showing that he can speak English. If we scroll up, his other family members are correct. Okay. And, oh, this is interesting. He has picked up this rental information from the record below him. Obviously, he is 11 years old and is not renting his home, right? That's just wrong. So if I do this, can I delete it? Let's do that. Because it's not relevant to him. Here we go. there, it's just indexed incorrectly. If I want to be nice, I can actually go to the record underneath it, which is this whole other person, and add in here for somebody coming along, because I can see that this is rent, farmer house, there we go, and save it. There. So I put that rent record where it's supposed to be, and now we go back to Grandpa here. Grandpa's here. There he is. So obviously, home owned or rented, free or mortgage, farmer house. To the little kid in the record, that's you know, relevant. Oh, did it? What? Well, kinda. Right? It kinda did. So yes. Rent. Edit. I see. Yes. Save. Thank you for catching that. There we go. Okay, now it's here. Now it's right. Right? And if we hover over, are you going to tell me things? There. Yeah. So there we go. Got our corrections. Yep. There we go. We've got our corrections in. Gotcha. Thank you for the sharp eye. See, this is why live streaming is better than recording a video. I could have gotten this wrong and it would be up there forever. Okay, so now we're going to say, is this my dude, Harry? I think it is. Let's go ahead and add him. And we have the same deal here where I want to pull out Ward 3 and just have it be Buffalo. Are we working? Are we auto-completing? Or not? All right, hang on. Sometimes that thing doesn't work, and the way I deal with it is I reload the page, and that makes it work. But I'm going to start back from here. So look here. Oh, let's see what, did it update? Yeah, look at that. Right, so now people can see that there is at least disagreement here. And let me go see if I've added, yeah, I've added a bunch of corrections. Yes. That's the one I want to keep. I want to delete that one. We're getting into some, removing that one, keep that one, cancel, refresh. Let's see if I've made a mess. Hey, that's it. This is what I wanted, right? Now, it messed with some of the other fields that are in that same group, whatever ancestry, but at least now this becomes more interesting. Actually, there's a thing we really want to do here, which is, do we think we can read A.L. Hammond well enough to be able to make a correction? Because I don't think it's an A. Oh, because, and I'm cheating a little bit because I already know what the dude's name was. We've got Hammond down here, and we've got Ella with an E and an A. And I think that I can see an E right here. I just think it's messy, and it's been written over. But I think, especially because I know the dude's name was Eugene, I think that this originally said Hammond E. Now, do I think this thing is an A? I do think it's an A, but if I didn't know any better, would I really think it was an A? I don't know. I don't know what I think it is. Where are they getting AL from? I suppose maybe they're looking at this as being the A, and then they're looking at this line being the L, maybe? I don't know. And I would say this is messy enough that I can't say I know for sure what it says. But I do like an E for this because and this is a census trick. If I look not just here where this Ella is, who is also a little messy, what if I scroll up and down and look, oh look, there's an Edna. I know how this census taker writes this census taker's E's. They look like that. There's an Eva. Right? There's an Ernest. So I can scroll back up here and say, do I feel like that's probably an E in there? I feel pretty comfortable saying that that's an E. So what if oh look, I have selected that record. Let's go to the index. And it says give a name AL. Oh look, if I hover over it, I'm not the first person to get here and think this. So somebody else, one of those might be me, they might both be me, what do I know? Somebody has added, and you have the option of adding, okay, fine. So let's go back out and let's look at how it is indexed on that page that hang on. Let's get back out to here. Let's go to here. If we go here and look at A.L. Hammond, And we can see this is where those corrections, most often you're going to run into that stuff, right? It's really the name being corrected. And I will say this, when you make a correction to the name, it does eventually cause that record to show up in searches correctly for the correct name, which is a big, big deal. If you see somebody else's family on the same page that's been transcribed incorrectly and you correct it and get the transcription right, you are potentially helping their descendant who's going to search for them later because they might not have been able to find it. Oftentimes you will have last names that are misspelled or just were mistranscribed because the handwriting's bad. So we're now seeing somebody has entered E.A. Hammond. We can see the details there. And in fact, that was me. Right? But we also have somebody else added Eugene Hammond. And this is kind of a helper. Like we know because we just looked at it that there is no way that record says Eugene. It does not. But somebody who knows that the full name is Eugene has added that as a way of making it come up in searches. And so and they've even correctly said, hey, this is a variation. It's not what's written on the transcript. It's not an error. It's supplemental information. And that's going to make it easier for people to find in searches, which if they're right, which they are, if they're right, that's really helpful. If they're wrong, it's annoying as heck. Right? And I think you can report. Can you report? You can't really, right? I can't delete that other person's thing if it's wrong. But let's go back to, so now that we're doing that, what we're going to get, that is going to cause this to do a cool thing. Let's take a look. We're back here. Yes, we're going to accept this record and pull it into the tree. Okay. So we got Harry. We have there's no big thing we got to change here because it also thinks he was born in October 1888. So we've got another, and it thinks he was born in Iowa. I'm actually going to do this because remember we pulled in this specific location in Iowa from my grave marker. I'm actually going to say, let's pretend we don't know that yet. Let's pretend we only know Iowa and that he was living in Buffalo in 1900. Great. So we've got him and he was single and his relationship was the son of the head of household. Great. Fine. Now we have, and he can read and write and speak English. Great. We can add a lot more information now to Eugene here. And when I click this, remember that we added some variations of the name. You'll see something very subtle but neat, which is that this name is a drop-down. And it's going to let us pick from all of these things, whichever one we like the best. So if we didn't know what his name was and we wanted to fill it in and we wanted to be real particular about what we know, I would argue that we would probably want to only do E. If I wanted to say, what do we actually know from that record? I would say that we only know E. However, we will recall that the New York census had it as Eugene. So I am comfortable keeping Eugene. Should I add an alternate and have the source go directly to that alternate? If I wanted to be as detailed with his name as I am being about my grandfather's birth date, I would do that. And in a case where I don't really know the person's name yet, I would get really, really granular about adding lots of alternate names. In this case, I am going to simplify and not do that because I don't think his name is going to end up being that controversial. Right now, what we have is a source that said Eugene and a source that said E. I'm good. I think those are the same name. Alrighty. March 1855. That's pretty useful. And we had it being 1855 before. So I don't think this is, again, I don't think it's a groundbreaking change that I need to set up alts for. I'm just going to go ahead and replace it because this is only adding precision. Same kind of deal here. I'm only getting more precise. I'm not changing this fact. I don't want an alternate birth location here. I'm going to keep this one as preferred. Remember I said that they're going to calculate they were married 26 years. That places their marriage about 1874. Awesome. So now I've got a marriage date for those that's going to help me potentially find more records. I'm going to clean out Ward 3 and have it just say Buffalo. I'm not going to put it in the description because I don't care that much, but sometimes you do. If you're really trying to track somebody, especially if it's a common name or they lived somewhere that were a lot of those, you can get really granular. Common name especially. Right? We now have Ella Hammond, and this has a drop down. What's the drop down? Ella Hammond or Ellie Hammond? I looked at that handwriting. That was pretty clearly an A to me. I'm going to go with Ella. And that matches what we had before. Am I going to add in the new surname? Nope. Same problem as before. We now have September 1856, and the year matches, so I'm going to keep that the same. If they were different, I would have some thinking to do. And then we've got Wisconsin. The marriage date is going to be the same. If I change it here and I say, oh, well, I actually know that it was 1875, it will change it up above because that fact is linked to the two of them, which is super useful. But I don't know that yet. I only know this, 1874. Great. I wish I didn't have to remove Ward 3 by hand. Most of the other years of the census don't have that, and a lot of locations don't have that. But when I see it, I try to clean it out. And then we got our buddy Mabel, Aunt Mabel. Different spelling. I, to this day, do not know which one of those spellings was correct. It switched, the L-E versus E-L, switched back and forth throughout her life. I don't know which one was right. Don't know. January 1885, so that's useful, and in Iowa. And I'll take out the word 3 down here. I will give another caveat about the 1900 census. It's the only one of the federal censuses that had the month. And typically, for some reason, the month is frequently correct. It's usually correct, but for some reason, that year of birth is frequently wrong. Oftentimes it is off by 1 year either way. I do not know why. There's probably a reason. I don't know what it is. So in this case, it happens to match really closely to what we already knew from the New York census. But I would be looking at, if I later on find a birth record that is a year one side or the other of the 1900 census, I'm going to be fine with that other birth record being right because the 1900 census is so often off. I happen to know that. And the fact that it's the only one that does the month and year is kind of helpful because if I see somebody, if I come back to this person later and I see that they have month year, I have a pretty good guess if they're in this right age range that came from the 1900 census. And then I see another record later that's a little off from that and I go, yes, we are fine here. All of this works. So now I'm going to save all of this information. And we now know a lot more about Harry's family. And knowing more about Harry's family, we already saw how that way. Thank you, Ancestry. We already saw how knowing things about his family, the family that he lived with especially, really helped us validate that one record was the same family as the other record, and one record had better data than the other one, and that told us that these both are the same records for this guy. Hey, you want to see a barking doggo? This guy. This is the guy who's been making all the noise. He is very tiny and very loud. Yes, and very shrill. He's a good boy, though. He is a good boy even when he's hungry and mad. Okay. Okay. Let's do... Yeah. We got about 15 minutes left in what I was planning on streaming today. How you doing, Phoenix? Do you got any questions? Is there anything you want to look at? I feel like I should give you the red carpet treatment since, like, you're the only one here, you know? It's pretty cool. I'm going to just go ahead and add the other New York census. This one's the... Oh, this is interesting. Huh. It's Harry, but it's only mom. Why is he only with mom? Well, spam your questions in the chat. Go for it. You have got... You get all my attention. That's the reward for being the inaugural viewer, man. What do you got? I'm just going to click things while you're doing that. Why is it just him and his mom? Let's go find out. Okay. There we are. Ella Hammond. Interesting. Well, now this is interesting. Yeah, Cranky's good. Now, Cranky's already had his tree built. He doesn't get to ask. I mean, Cranky can ask questions, but yeah, Phoenix gets first crack at question. So here we have. Well, see, now I'm remembering that we saw an address go by. Right? Yes. Big, messy trees. Sorry, yes, we feel each other's pain, right? They have a lot of stuff. I will tell you, there is some value in, I have found it really useful to sometimes just declare tree bankruptcy and start over. Because you will know when you've looked at a tree that you started 3, 4 years ago, and I still do this. It drives me crazy that I still do this. I'll go in and add stuff, and I won't make a note of what the source was or why I thought this. And I'm like, every single time, I'm like, oh, I'll remember that. I'll come back and add that tomorrow. I still do it. I'm always wrong, right? Do I do work offline? What other resources do I like? Yes, yes, and yes. Um, I mean, if you're starting from yourself and working backwards, obviously interviewing your family and getting as much information as they know as is a really good offline thing. I have somewhere, I'll try to bring it maybe to a future stream. I have a couple of scans of sheets of paper with handwritten notes from a grandparent where somebody just wrote down all the names they knew. And it was really cool to find that one of my cousins that I met from doing this work online, that I hadn't known was a cousin before, one of my cousins had a similar sheet of paper from her grandmother, and it having those names match up to names that were on my handwritten sheet of paper was very cool. Right. We will look at in future streams, we're also going to look at books written about family histories. There was a time period, especially in the second half of the 1800s and first half of the 1900s, where it was incredibly fashionable to have a book written about your family. And the number of them that exist is mind boggling. And we are going to run into, as we take Mr. Hammond back, we are going to run into a couple of major books that list the entire history of his family. And they got us from, I think, his grandmother all the way back in a book. The books are as good as the research that's in them, right? So we have to still be discerning about where did the sources come from for this book. But it turns out that the book we are referencing checks out most of the way. So we'll look at offline. And here's the brilliant thing about the books. Because they were fashionable in the late 1800s, early 1900s, most of them are out of copyright and most of them are freely available. So one of my favorite sources turns out to be the best way to find things is to Google them, right? But my favorite source is on archive.org. They have a massive repository of scanned out of copyright books. That is going to be sort of the shining star of a lot of our free research, is that we will be able to go in using Google to find what books exist. We will find the people in those books, and they are somewhat OCR'd, so you can actually search for people that are in the content of the book. Doing Google searches on husband's name, wife's name together, especially if they're not super common names, can get you a ton of stuff. So, local tree maker on the computer. Yes, I do have Family Tree Maker, which is the companion to Ancestry. And I've thought about, there may come a future stream where I will show you where Family Tree Maker does some stuff that Ancestry Online doesn't do that's really useful. Like, you can do reports and pull all the people in your family tree out into a spreadsheet and do stuff with them. Super useful. You can do a map. That stuff that I talked about where the place names will show you all the people, that's in there. That's in Family Tree Maker. It's not in the online. Right. So, no, don't shut up. This is why we're here. If I wanted you to shut up, I'd make a YouTube video. Right? No, I want people to come to the stream. This is great. And I would love for you to get enough value out of coming to the stream that it would make you want to come back, right? So no, that's why I'm here, is to build this kind of community and to do this stuff together, because I will tell you now, and Cranky can confirm, everybody in my immediate vicinity is not as interested in genealogy as I am, and they are very, very tired of hearing me talk about it. That's why you are here. Okay, siblings. Super good question. And it also goes to the question of, like, I think it goes to the philosophy of, am I doing genealogy to go find cousins, to go wide? Or am I doing genealogy to go backwards in history and find the ancestry? Because if I'm trying to go backwards in time, I maybe don't care about all that. Like, when you get in and you start finding the 6 generations back and all their siblings and all their children and children's children, and you get into like your 14th cousin, Like, we're all 14th cousins. I don't find that interesting. It's not interesting, right? So there does come, I get, basically, it kind of narrows. The further I go back, the less I'm tracking about siblings. And I will tell you my clever trick. Hang on. Let's go back and look at the tree. Because actually, we can take a couple minutes to look at Mabel. And we'll just answer that question with Mabel. Let's look at Mabel. Because we're going to get a boatload of hints about Harry's sister Mabel. And we need to do a couple of things with those, right? So, sorry. Yes, Washington State divorce record popped up for me. That was awkward. I got a hint for myself. That was weird. Oh, as a cousin? Your ex is a cousin? Greg and I are technically related. We're like 30th cousins. Okay, so we're in here looking at sibling Mabel. This is my grandfather's sister. This is pretty close in generation to me, right? Mabel's descendants are going to be a closeness of cousin that I might care about. Remember that I'm not going to put living people in here, so we're not going to go down into her descendants lest we find living people. However, let's take a look at this, because the first thing that pops up, and I happen to know this is accurate, I can verify this with my aunts and uncle, aunts, is that Mabel married a dude named Alan McKenna. And so here's Mabel. Birth date matches, 1885 Iowa. She's living in Buffalo, and she is married to McKenna. Now, if it was just the records, I might not be trusting that this is exactly the same person. However, born 1885 in Iowa, now living in Buffalo, does give me kind of a hint, because how many people migrated from Iowa to Buffalo? Huh, interesting, right? And I can look and find, do I have anything else that tells me? Mabel E is there. I've got this. She died in San Diego, so that doesn't tell me that she was in Buffalo. But oh, look, January 1885 matches what we had from the 1900 census. So let's say, yeah, we think that Mabel McKenna is Mabel Hammond. So let me show you what I do when I am adding somebody who is a sibling. Because here's I think we'll have had this experience. If I go add Alan McKenna, her husband, who I'm certain was, let's assume was a lovely person. Ooh, something good just happened. Hang on. We assume was just a really lovely person and has descendants that care a lot about the McKenna line. But McKenna is a sibling, is an in-law to me. If I add Alan McKenna as a person to this tree, Ancestry is going to helpfully offer me up 80 bazillion hints about Alan McKenna. And I am of two minds about that, because that might help me find more records about Mabel, but it also might create a lot of noise for me to sift through. And what I have found is that my default position is that I prefer to do not adding the spouses who are not related to us. I prefer to leave them out. And that causes me a challenge with maiden name, married name, and I'm going to show you what I typically do to deal with that. So we know that Mabel is Mabel Hammond, but she's also Mabel McKenna. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add her married name in her name field. If I added her husband, Alan McKenna, Ancestry would know that both of those were it would assume, actually. It would assume that those were both names that she used. So if I had her as Mabel Hammond, left her just like she is on the screen, and I also added Alan McKenna, it would say, oh, when you go search for Mabel, you're going to want to search for her under both names. It would do that for me for free. But then I would have this extra record for Alan McKenna that at the moment, I don't think I want. I can always come back and add him later, but at the moment, I think that's just noise that I don't need. So in order to get the same result, to get it to search for her under both of her married names, I'm just going to put her married name right here in her profile. If I'm downloading from Ancestry and sending it to other sources, that may cause me some headaches later, but I'm not expecting to need to do that. And I think it's fairly clear when somebody comes along and is looking at this what that means, right? I think it's reasonably understandable that that is a person's maiden name and married name. I am going to update with her new birth date because it's just adding, again, we're only adding precision. We're not changing any dates. And I happen to now see that she died in San Diego. I have a question here. Is it San Diego City or San Diego County? I happen to know from the California Death Index that they do it by county. So I don't know what city it was. I do know that they mean San Diego County. That is one of those things I happen to have learned over time. So now I know her dates. This is cool. And remember that we have her middle initial E from one of those census records. We don't know what E stands for, but there it is. So now we have her, and we're showing this is what I do by default for siblings. And I do typically add siblings. You did see it. You did see it. I typically add siblings because of exactly what just happened. So let's go walk through that with our last couple of minutes. On Ancestry, I wrote county in some places and some not. You are correct. It takes out the word county if there is a city, but if there is only a county, it puts the word county. I actually find that helpful because then I know which one it means. WikiTree doesn't, and it drives me crazy. We'll talk about WikiTree on another stream. WikiTree's automatic place names generator doesn't do that, and it's annoying. Ancestry handles county versus not county really well, and so I like that it does that. And it tells me, I know that I meant San Diego County. I didn't mean San Diego City. I can tell the difference. So let's go back to Harry, because I want to walk us through this very cool thing we just saw, and it is why we like siblings. Washington U.S. Death Index. View here. No information about his parents. It is possible that the informant on his death certificate here in Washington might not even have known who his parents were, because remember that we didn't know some of this information. So all I know at this point is not on his death record as the one I've found so far, right? The one I've found doesn't have his information. So it doesn't tell me who his parents were or what his mother's maiden name was. But Eagle-Eyed Phoenix here spotted the thing, which is Mabel's got father's surname Hammond, which gives us her maiden name, right? Because she was recorded under her married name. So this is how we know, oh, look, Mabel McKenna is in fact Mabel Hammond. Boom. That's helpful. That confirms what we suspected. It has her mother's maiden name on it. Her mother's maiden name is Wilcox. Sometimes on Ancestry, it will be indexed properly and it will actually offer to also save her parents at the time we save her death record. This one wasn't. And I would have forgotten it if you hadn't said in the chat that we saw her mother's maiden name here. So thank you for seeing it and letting me know in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and just copy Wilcox, and we can drop that right in here. We now know that Ella was Ella Wilcox. Do I want to add Ella Wilcox Hammond? I don't need to, because her husband, Eugene Hammond, is in the tree. So Ancestry is going to do that for us for free. So all I need for her is Ella Wilcox. Give it a second to update. Boom, there she is. We started with nothing, and we now have my grandfather. We didn't know a lot of stuff. We still don't know for sure that we have his correct birth date. We're going to zero in on it. Yay! See, that's why I like Twitch. It's community. Like, you can cheer where you are. I do wish I could hear it more, but I don't wish that I could hear the trolls that sometimes show up on other people's streams. So I'm happy that it's the way it is, but I'm glad you're there. What I'm hoping we can do is that we can start having fun stuff like emoji in the chat. And there's stuff I can do with the stream that makes funny things show up on the, anyway, it'll be fun. If people show up, we'll do more. Could you stop showing me that? Okay. So now we have Eugene Hammond and Ella Wilcox. We have Harry Harvard Hammond and his sister Mabel. Oh yeah, we were going to go in and correct that Edward Crossland Smith is female, which she is. So we have his spouse. And that means, yeah, we can close it out by looking at a really cool family tree. And let's flip it and look at the full family. There we go. So this is what we've been able to build in 2 hours with pretty rigorous, I think, inspection of some sources, we have gotten some pretty good information. We got a bunch of stuff for free from Find a Grave, which we want to go back and verify all of that stuff, right? We want to be very much more selective about that information. But armed only with what we started with at the beginning of the stream was we knew the dude's full name. We knew that he died in the late 70s in Seattle area, and we knew that he was about in his 80s. We used that to make some stuff up and plug it in. And from there, we've been able to find out a lot of stuff about him. And we found his, and we kind of thought we knew what his father's name was. And so we've used that to find his father, his mother, his sister, his mother's maiden name. And that is going to unlock a lot of stuff for us to be able to go back further on the tree. Ancestry is already trying to be helpful up here. I'm suspicious. These potential relatives here, frequently bogus. But we're gonna be able to have fun with this stuff within, let's say, the last 150 years, because if it's in people's living memory, it is more likely to be accurate. When we start getting into these potential mother, potential father back in the 1700s, 1600s, they get really, really bogus, and we don't like to just go grab them and put them in the tree. But this is kind of a fun exercise, and I hope you are encouraged to consider tree bankruptcy, build it up from scratch, use what you've learned since the last time you built the tree to build it back better. I've done that with the Hammond tree no fewer than 4 times. Sometimes I just want a clean house because there's always something new that I learn about how to prune the tree appropriately. So, yeah, you did hear that. That's it. That's it for the stream. It's about that time. I wanted to give us a couple of hours today. Twitch really encourages us to stream for 4 hours, and I am not feeling it. So I think 2 hours is a good amount of time to get digging into this, and we can. I am tentatively planning to stream again on Wednesday evening, and then again at this time on Sunday. We may experiment with some other times to see if other times bring in more viewers, but the thing that I've heard as advice for aspiring streamers is consistency and just letting people know where to find us. So I will be, over the next week or so, I'm going to be building out a calendar. I think we're going to stay in the Hammond tree for a while because there's a lot more we've learned. I've got an idea now of kind of how much more we can do here. We're going to go ahead and take advantage of our free trial membership while we've got it. And then in future streams, I'm looking at hopping over to WikiTree, which is a killer resource. We'll dig into some of those family books probably in the next couple of weeks. I think we'll get to the family book we're going to find is back on Ella's family line. There's some really interesting stuff that we'll dig into there and show how to use those books. And then I am legit looking for feedback from you. If you have an interest in working together on a tree of yours, we can figure out how to do the accounts and share and bring that up on the screen and do it collaboratively. So, like, I'm down for it. Ancestry discounts, Lordy, I wish. No, it's not. I don't think LDS gets you. Oh, you can do this is not good for COVID, but there is an Ancestry library edition that if you go to I think it may even be all public libraries. If you go to a terminal in a library, oftentimes they will have a version of Ancestry licensed that has access to more records. Not all of them, but a lot more of them. The other thing that you can do is let's take some time looking at what's available on Family Search, because Family Search is totally free for everybody and all the stuff they have is free. It's just a little harder to use. But if you've already got experience from doing a tree on Ancestry before, you're going to have a lot of the skills that you need to be able to make Family Search work. And they have added a tree with actual people on it that you can attach records to in a way that it's quite different from Ancestry, but it has some of those same features. I think it's worth looking at. It'd be a fun project to say, let's start from scratch. Can we build this guy on Family Search? Maybe we do that in the next couple of weeks and we'll just do the same exercise, right? And honestly, I'll probably stream this again because I didn't record this session. And I think maybe as we get a little more established, I'll just go back through and start him over from scratch and we'll build him and record the session so people can watch it. Anyway. So, oh, interesting. But see, Family Search didn't have a lot of these features back, even just a couple of years ago. I've been surprised at the stuff they've added. So But it's not as good as Ancestry. It's just not, because Ancestry is making money and they're investing the money back into the product. They pay software developers to make it better. I would love it to be even better than it is, but there's no question that it's the best thing there's nothing else out there that does what it does. There's just not. Um, so sadly, it's a matter of like I shell out the money for the full membership for myself because this is like my primary hobby. It's totally worth it for me. It's cheaper than it's cheaper than for me than some of Cranky's hobbies. I'm pretty sure. So anyway, so there it is. Yes, it really. A Family Search has some of the mistakes too. And we'll look at WikiTree if you've never seen it, worth taking a look at in between, and and the other one is werelate.org, which is clunky to use, not very many people there, but some of the features that it has are really, really interesting. I have not done a whole lot on MyHeritage. That's another one that some people are on. Like one of my maternal aunts is on MyHeritage. Um, but there are a lot of free sites. And so I think one of the things we can do as a stream is like, let's go check them out. Let's build the same tree in all of those sites and see which one does a better job and see what the pros and cons are. So anyway, it has been super fun hanging out. Thanks so much for joining the stream. Thanks for chatting and giving me something to interact with. That really is what I was looking for. Tell your friends. Help me publicize the stream. I hope the community will catch on. If it doesn't, Phoenix, I'm happy to still work with you. Anybody who's willing to listen to me talk about genealogy, I will spend time with. It is a pleasure for me. If it turns into something that we can do as a community here on the stream, I think that would be really exciting. So thanks so much for being here. Lots of love. And hopefully I'll see you and some others next time. Have a great Sunday. Bye.